So a couple of unique effects and design elements I wanted to let you know about with this Aria Fresca template. If you did want to keep these effects, I'll show you how to edit them. So just as with any template, you can always customize the colors, fonts, copy, of course, design elements. This paintbrush, if you remember here, is where you'll change the theme of your site, including the colors and fonts, and even your buttons. And one other thing to note, the mock-ups and templates and graphics will be included in the mock-up templates with it's labeled Aria Fresca templates. That'll be things you can open up and use in Canva to edit and create your own customized mock-ups that you'll be able to save to your computer and then upload to Squarespace and be able to put into sections like this if they're relevant to you. All right, so the first kind of unique element we have here is this scrolling block. Just like anything else, you select just by clicking that section, click the pencil here to edit, and then this is where you'll change the words that you want. You can add additional words and items. You can delete them. You can even add links. So if people click on the scrolling element, it will take them somewhere else that you would want them to go to. And design here is something you might like to also use. Here you can make the font size bigger. You can make it more of a curly or wavy line like this. You can even change the text style if you wanted either your heading or your paragraph set style. Also the text size, the direction of the scrolling here, and how fast it goes. So I think a lot of times when you put a new scrolling feature, it automatically is at this one-time speed, which is fine. I personally just prefer the slower, especially if there's a lot of things that they need to read and it's easy to miss. And this also is where you can customize if you want, when someone has their cursor over the scrolling feature, if you want it to stop scrolling, and if you want it to fade on the edges. So over here you can see it kind of fades off the edge. Just, personal preference for you. You can also customize how far apart everything is. You can change the background. So if you did want a different background color, that'll change here. And you can also note that background, so the background of this scrolling block is independent of the background of the section. So how it was in this template was that the section was the same height as the scrolling bar. So that's just up to you if you want to make it smaller or bigger or add the section so it's visible behind, a whole bunch of different design choices that you can make. All right, and I don't really mess with the blur, but that can change the different elements, how you see, which you don't really want it that blurred if you want people to read it, but just a couple things that you can do. So I'm going to actually undo some of these changes here. So that's the scrolling. Alrighty. Another kind of cool element I wanted to point out, and this actually is most likely at least once within all of our templates, but that is a image effect. So this is not a background image right here specifically. This is an image itself, but this effect can be used with a background image or a standalone image like this. And I'll show you when it's a standalone image, the effect that already is in place with this photo. I'll show you go into the photo design, image effect, and then there's 5 different effects you can choose from. You can definitely play around with each of these, and something important to note with each of these too is that you can change the setting on each of these effects. This parallax, it's called, effect is one of my favorites, my absolute favorites, but specifically with this template, I have it at a 60% intensity with a 90-degree angle. So that 90-degree angle is very crucial if you want to add or keep the photo effect of when someone's scrolling, the photo kind of seems to stay put or scroll upwards as you're scrolling. See what I mean there? So what's cool is this effect actually will come included when you purchase the template. It will already be there. So whatever photo you choose to put here, if you do want to keep a photo here, it will keep that effect. If you don't want that effect, or if you want something different, or if you want to change the settings, of course, go in here to change the settings. Remember, parallax is how I change these specific settings. Or if you don't want any, just click none here in the image effect if you want it just to be a normal static photo. So just something cool to note that we have in this template. Again, here is another scrolling bar. So like we were talking about before, you would change it the same way with all these different settings. This has a large font, as you can tell, a lot bigger, and it's faster too, this one. And something specific I did wanted to note too with especially something like this where you have overlapping photos and overlapping with the words and font. This is what I love about Squarespace. You can just kind of drag and drop wherever you like anything, but you can also decide if you want, say, this photo behind the writing, this, just select the photo, and then this button here, move backward. You can change how things are set up and say, like for this one, oh, you'd prefer this photo to be in front of this photo, easy enough, move forward. Cool. And then we scroll down here. Here is another photo with that same parallax effect. So once again, if you want to change that or edit it, please do. This section here has, as you can see, kind of a divider and a wave effect at the bottom. How you would change that or edit that if you wanted to is to select and edit the section. And then in the first design tab here, there's a divider. You would toggle that on or off to be there. And then you can choose the shape of the divider, one of these shapes, as well as the different settings for the width and the height. You can even flip it so the wave is going, see, the other direction. And you can also add, even if you do have a shape divider like that, you don't necessarily need to have this line. So if you still wanted the cool shape but didn't want the line, just here on the stroke, no stroke, and see how that black line went away. But of course you can add it in, or even a dotted line. And that's really cool. You can also edit the thickness of the line, how big the gaps are between the dash marks. You can change even the color. Once again, with your site, custom fonts and colors that you added will pull through to all of these different things. Or you can always add your own customized color with either the hex code or RGB code, or just by picking from this palette. So that's something cool to know. Like I said, the parallax effect here in this photo. Something else that's included with your graphics templates is a file tab uh, photo that you can create and edit and change the color in Canva and then upload that as an image, as a photo to Squarespace, and then replace this image block with your customized color and file tab if you wanted to keep it. It's just a cute little effect. You know, there's no harm, no problem if you don't care to have that. Just remove it, remove the text or change the text, add a text box down here if you wanted to write something there instead. Possibilities are endless, really. That's just a cute graphic that's also included with this template with just the text on top. So if this would be like your services, and then you could add your services to this accordion menu, which I'll show you real quick how to edit. Same thing as usual, you just click on the element you want to edit, click the pencil, and this is where you would change the title of that section and then the description. And you can always add another or delete whatever you don't have. You can change your design a little bit too here. Maybe the biggest thing you might want to change is the icon. So some people prefer the arrow or the plus sign, doesn't matter. And then you can change where it's placed and some of the, just how everything's situated with the row padding, and even add a background to have a different color. Sometimes what I like to do, this is kind of a cute design hack, is even if I want the same color, see how this, I added a background to this accordion section, but I placed it as the same color as the section background. This is a cool way if you wanted to add, say, a line around the accordion section, if you like something like that. Otherwise, it just kind of hangs out like that. Cool. Alrighty. And then, of course, this is the place where all of your things that you add to your blog will populate automatically. So you don't have to worry about adding anything to this summary block here. You can, though, change the design of it if you wanted a different type of summary block. Like that. It shows up a little bit differently. Cool. And that is also in the summary block where you can change the number of items shown and how many. So this will continue to naturally expand by itself as you add more blog posts as they fit into kind of your parameters here. See, I can change it to 3, 4 per row. You can also change the size if you prefer like a vertical. And like I said, that naturally just expands here. So that's kind of cool. You don't have to necessarily worry about making sure it's always up to date because it will pretty much update accurately as you go. And then one last thing on this home page that we have here is a custom graphic that is also included with your Canva templates, and that is this photo. So how this section looks right now, how it might seem to look to you, is that there's just, like, this is all one thing, the background photo and these little post-it notes. But actually these post-it notes are in Canva a photo template that you can customize with your own fonts and upload. And I had it here so that I uploaded this Canva graphic with an invisible background, which is it's able to do, I think, just with Canva Pro. If you don't have Canva Pro, you can get around that by in Canva with this graphic. clicking on the background color of the graphic and then clicking delete, and it will delete the color and will upload as like nothing color, if that makes sense. So that I just have, this is a photo with a clear background. So only these post-it notes show up. And then I actually added this photo that you see in the section as the background of the section. So you would change this by going into edit section, background, and then replacing the photo or adding, a video or art or just a blank color background if you wanted to. Cool. All right, so that is the home page, some different features that we have on here. As always, customize it to your, specifications, to your brand, and yeah, this will be good. Save, we'll just save it. And then a couple other things I wanted to note about some of the other pages that we had. Specifically, let's just take a look at the About page. So this, I don't think, has any custom or interesting or strange features other than, say, with this text block here, I have this underline. So this is a cool feature. You can, if you select even just one word, but this was both words here, you can go to this little icon here and do different highlights, they call them. So lots of different styles. Say if you wanted it to be actually like a highlighter, this is cool. And you can also edit it so that the thickness is less. So just something cool, or of course you can delete it completely by going in that same place, and then you just click remove at the bottom. If you did also want to add an animation, that's kind of cool. Then if you just saw it there, it draws the line. Let's see, yeah, so that's kind of neat if you wanted to add that effect. All right, then same as usual, a photo, a text box here. Okay, so yeah, here we go. Another thing that is added into some of our templates is a shadow. So if you can see, this photo here has a bit of a shadow, and it gives the effect of kind of overlapping elements, which is cute. There's two ways you can do this. Either you can create a photo in Canva that has a shadow effect on it and then just upload that as a photo so that the shadow will automatically be attached to the photo. Or say you have a photo and you decide, hey, I want a shadow on this photo. What you can do is add a shape block. And I'll just show you how we created this photo from scratch here. So I added this shape block, just a solid color shape. What I like to do, well, first of all, to make this pretty effective, you want to make sure that your image design is in the fill design. So a lot of photos are different sizes and might not fit the exact block characteristics of Squarespace, like this block that you see behind everything. So if you click fill, you'll make sure that this shape effect will work the best. So I have this shape. I'm going to make it the exact same size as my photo. Edit this shape. I personally like to, you don't have to do this, but I personally like to make it the same color as the background, just in case it does kind of slip out from behind the photo somehow, but it doesn't actually matter really. So I make it that color, and then I add a drop shadow to the shape. If you can see right now, the shadow is actually white. I'm going to change the color down here of the drop shadow to my darkest color. And there. You can also change the angle of the shadow, so where it's kind of positioned around and how big it is, the blurriness, so you can customize it however you like. And then one last thing then, when you have that, is to send it behind, move backward of the photo. Then you have a cool shadow behind any photo you like without needing the forethought of creating something like that in Canva. So something else important to note when you do add on your own one of these shadows, you want to definitely make sure the mobile view still looks okay. A lot of times it will add the shape, but it will be like somewhere far away from where you wanted it. So just make sure you might have to reshape everything. If it was a shadow that was already included, like this with one of our templates, it should already match up. So like if you edited, say you edit where both of these are, yeah, it'll still kind of stay the same here unless you drastically edit it. All right, and I think that's it. Yeah, we talked about the accordion, how to edit that. And then like I talked about before, how to get this effect with the accordion with the box, the line around it. Remember, you go into your settings here for the accordion, your design settings, and then do this where you have the background color and you add the stroke. I added this shape here to create an overlapping effect. So this photo looks like it's kind of overlapping between two sections, but actually is only in one section. But there's a shape I added, just like I added a shape up here. There's a shape here I added and then edited the design so there was a stroke, a line, to get this effect of having the line kind of overlapping with this accordion box as well. So if you didn't like that line or something like that, just go in here, click no stroke, and then the line would go away, that black line. You could also just delete this completely if you didn't want kind of that overlapping effect. So, you know, just a couple ways that you can customize the look and design. Okay, and then just a couple other links here at the bottom. Make sure each of these words will link to the right place when you're just about to launch. But of course, we'll go into that more too as you go through the template editing guide. All right, so just look at the freebie page. Like I said before, you'll get this mock-up is included in your graphics templates. This one actually is a video graphic that you can edit in Canva, but how this is in this template is actually, if you can see up here, a video block. So if you didn't want this to be a video, you would actually, I would recommend deleting it and then just adding a photo or an image block instead, and then adding, if your picture or what a mock-up that you wanted here is just a photo. So just something to note too. That goes for anything. If you wanted to change it to a video, you just have to delete the photo and add a video, or vice versa. All right. And here is you can edit this newsletter block however you like. We talked about this in some previous videos. And then this image here, once again, has if you can see, a shadow behind it. That's that same where the shape is behind the image, creating that effect that we talked about in the last page. Cool. I don't think there's anything necessarily different. Remember, you can always edit if you don't like the color, you can change the color of a font if it doesn't show up right with one of your sections. This section here, once again, it kind of creates an overlap effect just by adding this shape box, which is the same color as this section or shape color, to create a little bit of overlap. And then here too with the summary block, when you add more blog posts to your blog page, they will automatically populate here. Cool. Alrighty. And then let's just take a quick look at the blog page too, because this is a nice, this blog page comes with a big kind of summary walkthrough section. So something that I wanted to make sure you knew how to do was how to edit this, because it's a little bit different. It's like a section on its own. So for this section, to edit anything in here, these words, you have to actually go to over here to edit content. And then this is where in the content, this is where you would add the photo and then all the text. And also where you would link the actual blog post that you are trying to show people. Okay? So then you would add, and you could also take away if you didn't have all of these 4 featured blog posts, or you could also add more. And then another thing to note with the design, you can change kind of how big everything is. If you wanted to change here, yeah, at the bottom, the style and the spacing of everything so that your text size, this card toggle on and off switch here is what actually creates this background behind the text. If you like that or if you don't, you can change the arrows. And put them either on the bottom or the center. And then something else to note, if you don't really like all of this wordiness here, of course you can make it, you don't have to write that much. You can also just delete this description, and then it will just have like the title and the button. Cool. All right. So then another thing to note is these category buttons here. So you, of course, could rename them just by double clicking. You type your text in here. Sometimes when you type the text in, it will change the size of the button, so you might have to like, yeah, see if you see here I resized it, or can kind of drag and drop to resize. And then for your link, when you do add blog posts, there's a place in the settings of each blog post where you can add categories to that specific blog post, and then those categories will kind of be carried through and remembered by your site. So when that happens, with this link here, it will automatically populate now. This is a new feature in Squarespace. So I'll show you a little bit how that might work. But just to make sure there's nothing else here, now we have another free guide, another thing here, okay, another button. Okay, so how that works, I'll show you what I was talking about with your, okay, so you always look for this little pen icon. It's an easy way to see your actual blog posts themselves. This is where you will actually go into and write and add features to your blog post. So let's try this first one out for size. And this 3 little dots here, you go to settings. This is where you can change, the image that shows up with your blog post, the URL, if you want to change, that's a good idea, because usually it shows up like something like this. It's a little bit crazy. Just make sure you change that URL before you start linking to the blog post and other places. Just a little tip. And then we can go through to the options here to categories, and then you can actually add categories. We'll just say blogging, and then say this blog post to categories. It won't show your categories you already made, but if you start to type, if you know, blogging, it already knows that's one of your categories. And then you can check it if you also want to add that to the blogging category. And then you can add more categories. There. Cool. Oops. Let's just make sure it's safe. I think it automatically saves that anyway. Okay, so then what I was saying about in the blog page itself here, we'll go to category 1. We'll say that that category is your blog. Oops. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I opened a dictionary up. So we'll say that is blogging category. Attach link. Sometimes it'll actually show, yeah, at the very bottom here, it already is there. So you don't, we used to have to kind of do this manually by typing in this whole URL snippet. But ta-da! So then anything that has that category tag, when someone clicks on this link, it will take them to those blog posts. So yeah, you see what happened there when I typed, it kind of messed everything up. Easy enough to drag and drop and make sure you like what it looks like. We're gonna save for now because I wanted to show you then when someone would click on that link, yeah, it would open up, it would keep the same kind of top section here, but then it would only show these two that we marked as blogging. Cool, huh? So it's like, I don't know, it's cool, I think. All right, so I think that is kind of all we have, yeah, to do with the kind of the interesting setup stuff to note. There's other resources I gave you to how to edit the header, how to edit the header and footer, but something to note here, you could also in this put your different blog categories and do that same thing that we did with the button up above. And then this template also comes with some preset legal pages, but they're not complete at all. So they're over here in the not linked portion, which the not linked just means it's not shown in the header. All we have here is just, you know, random. It's not actually a terms of service thing. So just so you know, make sure to edit this too. Consult with some lawyers, or just there's a lot of good resources out there, but make sure they're legitimate about how to put these types of things together. All right, so I think that is it for this template. Let me know if you have any other questions, and good luck to you.